Let's join Heather and our instructional leadership coach, Dr. Erin Van Acker, as they talk about this week's high leverage practice.
Welcome to Little Bits of TLC, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of education. Join our host, Heather Volchko, as this season we focus on high leverage practices, HLPs. Each episode will examine a different HLP, essential strategies designed to enhance teaching and improve outcomes across various educational settings. These practices focus on collaboration, assessment, social, emotional, behavioral support, and instruction, benefiting all K-12 students. I hope you're ready to be both challenged and inspired, because this season is all about mastering the HLPs. This is Little Bits of TLC. Looking for something that actually fits your life? TLC University is here for that. Each week, we spotlight something different. A webinar with real-world insights, a hangout-style interview, and a hands-on workshop or a Q&A where we answer your questions. It's flexible, it's self-paced, and most come with CEUs. So whether you're looking to grow, reflect, or just listen in, there's something here for you. And it's all in one place. university.thresholdlearning.org. That's where you'll find show notes, professional blogs, a full catalog of ACE-accredited courses, and downloadable resources. It all just keeps growing. So whether you're walking the dog, commuting, or taking a breather between the daily grind, TLC University meets you where you are. Head to university.thresholdlearning.org and check out what's new this week. See you then.
Teachers select and implement assistive and instructional technologies to support the needs of students with disabilities. They select and use augmentative and alternative communication devices and assistive and instructional technology products to promote student learning and independence. They evaluate new technology options given student needs, make informed instructional decisions grounded in evidence, professional wisdom, and students' IEP goals, and advocate for administrative support in technology implementation. Teachers use the Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, framework to select, design, implement, and evaluate important student outcomes.
For this HLP, we are talking about using assistive and instructional technologies. And Erin, I'm excited to have this conversation with you because you did so much work in the classrooms leading up to COVID, and then I've continued to engage in those classrooms from COVID forward. So I'm excited to see all the different types of practices that show up across both of our different spaces. So for you and your practice, what has assistive and instructional technologies looked like?
So I think one thing that has really come up is a lot of the instruction that's more focused online now. So where students are engaged and it's kind of leveled for them and where it will adjust specifically for them as they're involved with the lessons. And then where we can both get diagnostics, and then that helps also identify like, okay, these are the key skills that they need to work on, and it generates different programs for them or activities based on those skills that they need to learn. I think we see that so much more now than we ever have. I think, years ago when I started in the classroom, we had that to an extent, right? But it's just, the boom of technology has really taken over. So yeah, I think a lot of instruction now, like where we'll see it, maybe you do teach a little bit of a whole class lesson or mini lessons, but a lot of times then there's sometimes instructional technology takes over where students are on their computers engaging with online platforms for either a whole lesson or maybe it's part of center or independent work, right? And then I think also integrated with kind of classroom management. So there's Class Dojo and different things to where you can really identify students, provide points, if you're in point systems, when they're demonstrating desired behaviors. And I think it can just be so much faster, right? Like, so you can give it to them, they get that message immediately, and you don't have to worry about going to the whiteboard and removing a mark or going to the desk and, giving them that specific feedback. Now, it's great to still go to their desk and give them that specific feedback. But especially for general education teachers, right, who may have 35, 40 students, that's not always possible. So I think just ways to really be quick, provide that feedback, and then you have all of that data within that system just easily generated for you is so wonderful these days.
I think instructional technology, you're talking feedback, that can be behavioral feedback, instructional feedback. I mean, there's so many different aspects of feedback that instructors are constantly providing to their students. And quite honestly, one of the things that I have loved, especially coming out in the past few years, is that now there's like augmented feedback. And so not only are we able to leverage some technology to find some levels of students, again, assuming that they're engaging with these things appropriately, not doing the click test or speed runs, right? All of this stuff. But assuming that they're actually engaging in those, we can get faster and really pretty dang reliable ideas about like where our students are at. But then within that program, it's already built in to have like, here's where, here's a misstep on this piece, or this is, a component of what you were trying to do, and we've identified this lagging skill, and so now we can go in that direction. I do appreciate, as an instructor, most of those platforms have override options, so I can look at it and be like, nah, that was a click test, like we
Right.
did some classroom stuff and we know that that's not where the kid is at, and so we
Right.
can
Or they finish
override
this
those
in less
things.
than a minute, right?
Yes, exactly. But it's like, as an instructor, then I'm able to cover so much more ground so much more quickly, and my students can get that real-time feedback that, let's be honest, like right now, everything is like instantaneous. And so even something like taking homework home to do it and then bringing it back for feedback, that is a very lengthy feedback loop compared to that instantaneous results. I mean, that's where the flipped classroom came from. I mean, that's something we leveraged a ton in COVID. Was instead of, bringing your work back and checking, is like, we can actually just do it together, and then you can take that instructional piece home, and then we can, you do that offline and then come back in and we'll engage in that interactive learning piece together. But all of that, like, tech is what has made that possible,
Mhm.
not just, I think back to like when computers were first starting to become part of instruction. Now it's just integrated into how we do instruction.
And gosh, that has to be so great for parents as well, right? That they don't need to worry about where's your homework or your books or all of this, or how am I supposed to help you, right? Like it's just there on their computers and they have that support already based in the like within their programs that they don't need to figure out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, and even, us, I think about our students who struggle with maybe executive functioning and some organizational, needs where they're not, walking around with binders full of all these papers sticking out of everywhere and they can't find anything. It's like, no, it's electronically already organized for you. So as long as you can find where you need to go, then you can just plug in. And so it has actually expedited the learning of some of our students that have some of those executive functioning challenges. Now, of course, it shows up in other ways because now it's less tangible. And so some of those things that are really helpful when you're, struggling to kind of ground yourself into routines, now it's like the same screen for everything. And so it's like now you're getting lost in a virtual space as opposed to getting lost in like an overwhelming physical space. But I'm curious for you, like, how have you seen over the course of time, like, how have you seen instructional tech show up? I'm thinking even like back to maybe some of like your earlier teaching and where tech was feeling pretty cutting edge at that point. And now we're like, oh gosh, that's just kind of how things go.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, when I first started as a general education teacher, right? Like, and we had AR reading, I don't even remember what that stands for, accelerated reading? Yeah. And students could access some books online, right? And they could take their tests about a book online. And they could also go to the library or go to the classroom library and get physical books, right? That matched those. And then they could take their little test online. And it would print out a Scantron.
Yes.
And tell me where they were at with those quizzes, right? And then I feel, we moved more and more, and then we got like smart whiteboards, like our smart boards and all of that, which was great, right? Where it's like I can have my whole lesson, I can have like embedded videos, and students can actually come up and interact with the board and the lesson. To now, I mean, they're just sitting at their desk and they have their computer, and really the entire class can be online, right? I've walked into some classrooms and students are just like they're not even interacting with the teacher, and they're just like, or physically, right? Like the teacher's in the classroom, but they're doing all their interaction virtually, which is mind-boggling to me, right? But that's the way we're trending. So, but I
Yeah.
think with that, like you said, like there's so much more immediate feedback, individualization that can happen just right away. And it can really take that off the plate of the teacher, right? To where they can really focus on, okay, maybe they can pinpoint like this student's struggling a little bit more with this. So how can I add additional supports and not have to worry about like all of the testing themselves? Like even that benchmark testing, I remember it would take weeks for me to test all of my students, right? I had
Yeah.
35 first graders when I taught first grade. I mean, it took weeks to do just our reading level tests 3 times a year. And to think of just all that instructional time that then my students really missed out on because they have a sub while I'm testing all of my students. And that still happens in a lot of schools where we're doing that, but we do have a lot more just integrated assessments as well that are virtual programming.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like it's really expanding the capacity of what we can accomplish while still giving us the data that we need to make good instructional decisions as that instructional leader in our classroom. And I'm thinking of like those relays where you used to like ask a question and then someone had to come up and like say the answer quickly and then go back and like you had these relay pieces, but you were still only max testing what, two, three, however many teams you had going. It's a
Mhm.
teeny percentage of the class where now things like Kahoot are everywhere. So everybody's on their screens,
Absolutely.
but the whole class is engaging and you have data on every single kid on how every one of them answered every single question, right?
And
Like,
think about
oh my
expanding those
gosh.
opportunities to respond with that, right? Where it's like every single question, every student can respond in their own individual way and get immediate feedback on that, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, I feel like sometimes practitioners can be a little scared. I know, especially right now in the world of AI, right? Like, is AI going to replace teachers, right? There's
Right.
all these conversations where I don't think from our conversation so far, I'm hearing anything that's like, oh, yeah, I just kick back and let the computer let it like do my instruction for me. It's more like it's supplementing in ways and really expediting my efficiency to be able to continue to do the
Mhm.
teaching thing and to meet my students where they're at. But now I can do it faster or more informed, or like there's all these like additional efficiency pieces that tech is really bringing us right now.
Right. And I think like just the level that you can even interact with your students through that, like even just through Google Docs, right? Really creating like different lesson plans and providing that feedback within there. I am sure you know a lot more programs that also offer those capabilities, but where you can really interact and scaffold the lesson for every student or individual students, right? As they need.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to like I'm teaching English and alternative ed, and writing was like the number one hated activity of every single one of my students. I mean, all the way back to the days of me teaching GED prep, right? Like writing had always been that sticking point. And so in the building that I was working in, students were not allowed access to cell phones. So they had to check it at the door and then they could come in and they could pick it up on the way out of our building. And so this one student could tell you all the right things, could not like just the frustration tolerance with a keyboard on a computer or physically writing was just problematic. But as soon as you gave him that phone on the way out the door, his thumbs were flying the whole way. Before he'd even made it to the bus, he'd responded to a million different messages, right? And so I
Mhm.
was like, gosh, can we play with this? Right. And so then it was like, okay, can we for this one class period? And we literally put his Google Doc up on the front board. So it was full transparency. You could see exactly like, was he actually working? All of that. But then he literally sat there and typed with his thumbs beautiful responses. And so it went from full resistance. I like,
Mhm.
there are limitations here and I'm getting frustrated. I'm done. I'm just not going to do it the whole way to then he was having some of the best writing, like some of the staff didn't even know that that was in him because there was this gap, right? And that's even tech within tech, right? Like tech using a keyboard versus tech doing, with my thumbs. And now it's all swipe text. So
Right.
there's so many of these different, ways of communicating that I'm thinking, especially our older students are maybe more used to. Not saying that
Mhm.
like you need to know how to use a computer for your job or like those kinds of things. You can't always do everything on your phone, but I myself definitely have a variety of tasks that I will gladly sit on my phone and knock out and then I'll go to my computer and do other things,
Yeah.
right? Like there's just a bunch of different ways to do work now that crosses all of these different forms of technology. So with our students, like why not?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that made me think, one of the biggest areas of resistance that I would find in my classrooms and with teachers that I work with is writing. Like writing is just it's laborious, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have like if you're not strong at it, like it can really be a struggle. And just think, like before we'd have to go and you'd have to meet with like your AT director to make sure like to get co-writer or different programs to support students so that they have like speech to text or predictive text. And now like that's just embedded into everything, right? So every student has access to that.
Yeah, I think it's those accessibility pieces, right? It's the UDL aspect
Mhm.
where
Yeah.
if it's good for some, it's probably good for all, and different people will leverage it in different ways, but why not, right? Like it's just
Mhm.
expanding the opportunity of access to instruction and the opportunities for students to respond to their learning.
Mhm.
When we think instructional technologies, I think a lot of times this high leverage practice is focused on, like we've been talking about, the feedback to students. But families are part of that feedback loop. And so for them to know how their students are doing is also part of this. And that's something that I think before COVID, we saw, more of that coming through. So I'm thinking of, like, you had already mentioned Class Dojo, but there's also like Remind 101 or Bloom. And I don't even know if some of these are still around, but like they were so common, and it was a way of like cutting out the emails. And instead, then they could get these quick notification, especially as smartphones are becoming more commonplace, then it was just fitting into the typical communication flow on the receiving end, as opposed to like the formalities that emails bring, or quite honestly, just a lot of, ads and, clutter that fills up in the email inboxes anyway. But then in COVID, it became a necessity because students were at home, and it was more than just having a family help their kid get to the bus. It was now the family has to engage with the student enough to make sure, are you actually online? Just because you're on your computer doesn't mean you're with your teacher, and like all of those things. So that need to close the communication gap with our families to make instruction possible
Mhm.
boomed in COVID. And so I saw a lot of practitioners get really creative and how they engage their families. I even had families just participating and learning. We had families that also had, skill deficits of their own, that then they were participating with their students and gaining those skills. And it was just like, hey, we're all at home. Let's just do some learning. And it was just like this open, welcome space. And then to shift that back to now where the student is gone and the families are at home to maintain some of that, that's where we did see it, anything that is not just providing access to grades, but the updates of being like, "Hey, your kid just, blew their most recent diagnostic out of the water. Like, holy
Mhm.
smokes, this is such a phenomenal growth piece." Or like noticing that different behavior points are coming through. Or I've used some platforms where we can then say like, "Hey, your student just cashed out for, a DoorDash lunch," or whatever that is, right? But to be able to have that open communication with parents, especially with students who are struggling, is such a game changer, because so frequently, like as practitioners, we are identifying what's not working. And then we know that we need to communicate with our families. But so often, then we're communicating what's not working,
Right.
as opposed to that full picture that, yes, there's things that aren't working, but there's things that are as well. And so we've been able to leverage some of that instructional tech, not just for the feedback for the student, but also to then push that information to their families, so that they can actually see what's going on a little bit more transparently too, which has been really beautiful in the current season.
That's great. I think especially thinking of our students who struggle, right? Where a lot of times parents only hear from the teacher, right? When the student has acted up in class or something went wrong. So really making that easier so that you can provide that quick, hey, they did this wonderful thing in class today. I'm really proud of them, right? Or just keeping that positive communication open is wonderful. I also think that would have been amazing for me when I had students where it was like every single day we had a journal with the parents. So the student would take the journal home. I would write like how the student did during the day, like what we did, how they did, et cetera. Like just keeping open communication of what happened. And then the parent would respond about like how the night went, morning went, just so everybody was on common ground, right? And we could really support the students in the best way possible. I wish that could have been on some sort of online platform at that point. It was just so hard, like the notebook would get lost at home, right? Or like parents were busy and would forget to put in the backpack, or the student would, or, like it would just get lost in the shuffle of life, right? Or even at the end of the day, it would be a crazy end of the day at the classroom and it wouldn't always get put in the student's backpack, right? And so just really having that easy, clean piece to keep that open communication with parents and really, so you can work together and figure out what's best for the student. It would have been wonderful.
Well, I think if anything, our conversation is just looking at like technology can really expand the capacities of the already overflowing plates of our practitioners. And so in a day and age where sometimes tech can feel a little scary, it's looking at, how can it support me in my practice? What do I need to do? How can it actually help me move a little faster or be more efficient or get better data? Or, like, what is it that it can really do on my behalf and with me, so that I can then actually do, in my opinion, like the fun part of education and like actually doing that learning with my students and being able to leverage tech to facilitate that in all these like strategic, intentional, pockets of everything that goes into education. I think this has been a really cool conversation to just open up all of these opportunities and knowing that like there's no one size fits all. There's no yes or no. It's up to that practitioner and those student needs in that context to figure out really what's going to meet those needs. So,
Mhm.
thank you so much for engaging in this conversation with me. I know we've seen a lot of different things over our practices and we've seen it from different angles too. So, yeah, thanks for just opening up this can of worms on all things tech.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for sharing your experiences.
Supporting students with emotional or behavioral challenges in a gen ed or resource classroom? Project Thrive is a 6-strand project built to help you do exactly that, with confidence and clarity. You'll learn how to set clear expectations, maintain student focus, encourage helpful behaviors, and respond early before things escalate. The content also covers practical strategies for managing challenging moments, leading your classroom with clarity, and creating a space where learning stays on track. Led by educators Ann Potter and Candace McCoy, Project Thrive blends evidence-based practices with practical tools you can start using right away. No extra prep, no fluff. If you're in a classroom, in the thick of it, and looking for support that makes a real difference, this course was made for you. If you support students with low incident needs, Project Base helps you design a consistent classroom built just for them. And if you're in a therapeutic or alternative setting, building something from the ground up, Project Onward offers the structure and tools to do it well. Head to university.thresholdlearning.org to learn more and start thriving today.
When we talk about technology for students with disabilities, it generally falls into two categories: assistive and instructional. Assistive technology, often referred to as AT, includes tools like augmentative and assistive communication devices, or AACs, which are crucial for giving students access to instruction. These devices can range from something as simple as a pencil grip to more advanced tools, like text to speech features or communication devices that allow nonverbal students to interact with others. The beauty of assistive technology is that it's personalized, specifically designed to meet individual needs and reduce the impact of a disability, whether that means improving communication, mobility, or access to learning. On the other hand, instructional technologies are geared more towards supporting the learning process itself. Think about software or interactive games that help students stay engaged, or instructional videos that make learning more dynamic. Special education teachers often blend both assistive and instructional technologies to create a customized approach that meets the unique needs of their students. These tools work together to ensure that students can fully participate and thrive in their learning environments. Technology is everywhere in schools, shaping the way both teachers and students engage with learning. However, despite its constant presence, it's not always used as effectively as it could be to support the specific needs of students with disabilities. Just because technology is available doesn't mean it will automatically make a difference in student outcomes, especially when we're talking about students with unique learning challenges. Educators have to be cautious about simply picking tools and expecting immediate improvements in student performance. This is where a thoughtful approach comes into play, especially in relation to IEPs, which have a designated section focused on assistive technology. These tools are meant to help students access the general curriculum and extracurricular activities, whether it's through communication aids, mobility devices, or tools that assist with reading, writing, or note taking. The key here is to think critically about how these technologies can be integrated into a student's learning plan to help them meet both short term and long term goals. Importantly, students also need to be explicitly taught how to use these tools effectively, and ongoing feedback is essential to ensure they're using them in ways that truly enhance their learning. This aligns with best practices outlined in high leverage practices, or HLPs, like systematically designing instruction, HLP 11, providing explicit instruction, HLP 16, and offering quality feedback, HLP 8 and 22. These elements are crucial in making sure technology doesn't just exist in the classroom, but actively contributes to student success. When we talk about effectively promoting active student engagement, especially in classrooms where students have diverse learning needs, assistive technology, or AT, plays a vital role. For students to truly benefit, teachers need to consider AT in a way that aligns with each student's specific goals and their access to the general curriculum and extracurricular activities. One of the best ways to do this is by using the SETT framework, which looks at the student's strengths and needs, the learning environments, the tasks they're expected to complete, and the tools, like AT devices, that can support them. This process allows teachers to directly integrate AT into IEP goals, ensuring that technology isn't just an add on, but a fundamental part of how the student engages with learning. And it's not just about picking the right tools. It's about collecting and analyzing data on how effectively these tools are working across different instructional settings. Adjustments might need to be made as the student progresses, ensuring that AT continues to support them in meaningful ways. Instructional technologies, or IT, also deserve attention, particularly in core academic areas. Teachers should be thinking about how IT can reduce the challenges students face, whether by minimizing reading difficulties, increasing engagement, or reducing the cognitive load on students. Accessibility is key. We need to evaluate and address any barriers that might prevent students from using IT effectively. This means providing clear instruction on how to use the technology, explaining why it's being used, modeling it for students, and offering scaffolding practice opportunities so they can eventually use the technology independently. To maximize its impact, educators should also be evaluating how well IT supports students in reaching their learning goals. The principles of Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, are invaluable here. By designing instruction that increases engagement, improves access to content, and offers multiple ways for students to demonstrate understanding, technology becomes a tool that fosters active engagement and achievement, not just something that sits passively in the background. It's about strategically integrating these technologies to enhance learning outcomes for all students. School leaders play a critical role in ensuring that teachers are equipped with the tools and knowledge they need to effectively integrate assistive and instructional technologies into their classrooms. One of the most impactful ways to support teachers is through targeted instruction, professional development, and coaching that covers a broad range of AT and IT options. This is especially important given the diverse needs of students and the variety of settings in which these technologies can be applied. It's not enough just to introduce these tools. It's essential to observe teachers in action, providing feedback on how well the technology aligns with both student needs and the curriculum's demands. This kind of feedback helps ensure that technology isn't just used for the sake of it, but that it's truly serving its purpose in advancing student learning. Collaboration is another key piece of the puzzle. Encouraging content teachers, technology coordinators, and special education teachers to work together fosters a shared understanding of both emerging technologies and innovative uses of existing tools. Often, the best solutions come from these collaborative efforts, where new ideas are exchanged and educators can learn about tricks or strategies to make the most of the technology at their disposal. For those teachers or staff members who may feel hesitant or uncomfortable with technology, providing support is crucial. It's about making the benefits of technology use visible, whether that's through modeling how it can enhance learning or through direct coaching. By showing teachers the real impact technology can have, we can help build their confidence and encourage more widespread adoption of these valuable tools in supporting student success. Students with disabilities experience significant benefits when they have access to assistive technology devices and services, as well as when teachers leverage instructional technology to address their unique needs. As technology continues to rapidly evolve, it's inevitable that it will have an even greater impact on students' lives, both in and out of the classroom. This creates a pressing need for school professionals to make increasingly critical decisions about how to allocate resources when selecting, implementing, and evaluating the effectiveness of various technology tools. Special education teachers, in particular, have a pivotal role to play in this landscape. They must stay informed about the latest technology developments and collaborate with their school or district technology specialists to ensure that assistive and instructional technologies are used as effectively as possible to meet the needs of students with disabilities. These partnerships and a proactive approach to technological advancements are key to supporting the success of students with disabilities in an ever-changing educational environment. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Join us next week when Heather sits down with our registered behavior technician, Manny Quesius, to talk about our next high-leverage practice.
Hey, before you jump back into your busy life, consider dropping a like and follow Threshold Learning TLC on Facebook and Instagram. And if you like our show, share the podcast with your colleagues. A personal recommendation is by far the best way to promote the podcast. Let them know that they can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else they catch their podcasts. Just be sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite platform. You can also email us at info@thresholdlearning.org. We always enjoy connecting with fellow educators and champions for educational justice. You can find everything you're looking for at thresholdlearning.org. See you there. Attention educators pursuing behavior analysis certification and universities preparing them for success. Supervision with TLC offers 100% remote fieldwork supervision designed specifically for school-based professionals. Educators can earn their hours right in their schools without leaving their classroom, all while being supported by experienced BCBAs who understand the realities of education. With month-to-month scheduling, affordable rates, and both live video and asynchronous chat, our fieldwork supervision model is designed to fit into your life, not the other way around. We also invite universities to enhance their graduate programs in partnership with our team of practicing school-based BCBAs. Our fieldwork supervision model keeps students on track for certification by helping them connect their practice to all exam domains so that they can confidently pass the exam. Explore more at university.thresholdlearning.org/supervision or email supervision@thresholdlearning.org to connect. Supervision with TLC, where educators grow into behavior analysts.